And we're live. Good morning. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Should be working anytime soon. Just 1 second. Hey, good morning, Laura.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Yes, I'm good.
Great. Happy New Year.
Yeah, to you too. It's a bit late, but I think if it's well wished, then it's
Absolutely.
good at any time.
I hear we can say it until the end of
Yeah.
January, so I'm not ashamed. And Happy New Year to everyone who is watching us today on this live. I'm very excited. It's been a while since I did one for the last time, so I'm a bit rusty, but let's see how it goes. And I'm very excited to have you as a guest today, Laura. I'm going to start with a very short introduction. Just to introduce myself to all the viewers. So you are on the Instagram of Parentally. We are a platform dedicated to helping new and future parents find all the extra care and support they may need during pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and parenthood. So we share information, we share community support, and of course, access to all the professionals who can support you on your journey. Beautiful, but sometimes challenging. So today we have Laura Schuit as our guest. Laura, you are the director of the Kleine Amsterdammer, and we are going to talk about kraamzorg.
Yes.
My pronunciation is really bad.
Yeah, maternity care, kraamzorg. I think everybody knows the words who's
Exactly.
watching.
Yeah, so it's a word that's hard to pronounce, but that hides something very beautiful. So I'm very excited to talk about it. I have a million of questions, but before we dive in, maybe would you like to introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yes, of course. My name is Laura. I'm 42 years old. I've been in the maternity business since the millennium, so that's 23
Wow.
years now. I started as a maternity nurse. I did everything you can do within a company, and now I worked my way up to being the director and looking forward to making sure this also stays available for my daughter
Mm-hmm.
and our daughter's daughters and our son's children and everybody who wants to have babies in the Netherlands, just to make sure that they get the guidance and support that every parent should be able to have. So
Amazing. That's an amazing mission. And before we talk about it, so we're going to start from with the basics, I think. So to explain maybe what is kraamzorg, what is maternity nurse, and how does it work?
yeah, great. Well, it's a typically Dutch
Mm-hmm.
system, as probably all of you know, and it's very much based on preventive care. And it goes way back, like from the 1900s, when it was done by women who were just experienced in having
Mm-hmm.
babies, etc. And nowadays it evolved through, well, real medical guidance,
Mm-hmm.
but also a support in guiding parents into not only taking care of their baby, but also finding each other in parenthood and
Mm-hmm.
talking to each other about how you want your family to be and what are your family values and how you create your own domestic happiness
Mm-hmm.
together or alone if you're a single parent, of course. Also, how you can do it on your own
Mm-hmm.
with or without a network. So the basic maternity care is making sure the baby and the mom are healing properly,
Mm-hmm.
making sure parents can take care of their newborn and
Sorry.
also feel confident in taking care of a baby, because some people can do it by instinct, but not all
Mm-hmm.
people are naturally gifted with instinct and they just have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we come in and we can show you all our tips and tricks and all the sweet spots that you can rub, touch to make sure that you feel comfortable in the first week with your baby.
And that's such a great service, especially for first-time
Yeah.
parents. I just wanted to go back to something you said at the very beginning. So the kraamverzorgsters, the maternity nurses, they take care of, they make sure that you are doing well, right?
Yeah.
After birth. So it's a medical service, right?
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
medical service. They're trained
Okay.
maternity nurses, and you have like a level 3 degree.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the nurses who work in the hospital, who can also take your blood and everything, that's level 4.
Mm-hmm.
So maternity nurses are just below that.
Mm-hmm.
If you see people who help out the elder, like in their homes, those are level 1 or level 2.
Mm-hmm.
So to
Okay.
give you some expectation about how the maternity nurses are trained. The training is about a year to a year and a half.
Okay.
And in this year, they have to do a lot of home study, but also schoolwork. So like the theoretical pathology, how does birthing work? How does pregnancy work? But also how do the mental conditions work? What happens with the hormones? And they have to be guided by a trained
Mm-hmm.
nurse to start learning the job on the spot. Because, yeah, well, putting a baby into the bath or changing a diaper, checking someone's stitches, you can learn it a bit from a book, but you also just have to do it. And it's the same. So we also know how parents feel. Some nurses don't have children of their own. So for them, they had the first experience of putting a baby in the bath as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes about 1,000 hours of
Okay.
studying and practicing on the job with guidance from a professional nurse before you can set off on your own to be a professional nurse. And then still, it takes years and years of training and follow-ups. So a nurse needs to register every 4 years.
I see.
And at least 4 years, she has to do a variety of schooling from first aid, resuscitation, how to handle in acute situations during birth, how to guide breastfeeding, bottle feeding, take care of a mom after a C-section, and well, lots of different other subjects that you can study on just to keep all your
Yes.
information up to date.
Yes.
And yeah, some people go through very tough situations in the first months of their profession, and some things you don't see until you're 5, 6, 7 years further along, because yeah, all situations are different. So you don't know when you get in what situation, and you have to be in the situation to probably fix the details. You can do the theoretical
Mm-hmm.
uh, research and know the information, but how to use it with a certain family, that's always different. So practice makes perfect.
Of course. Of course. And you mentioned already a lot of different things that maternity nurses were offering. I think it would be interesting if you could tell us exactly um, actually what to expect from a maternity nurse. I'm sure we've all heard stories of other people's maternity nurses offering all types of different things. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, what is their role actually? What is let's say what is the what are the basics that you can expect to have with a maternity
Yeah.
nurse?
Well, the basics is and it's also probably good to know that because it's covered from your
Yes.
health insurance, it's a basic health care, like
Mm-hmm.
just like you can expect from your medic, from your physical therapist, from your dentist. Everybody has to have a certain amount of quality and things that they can provide you with. And for the maternity care, it's the daily checkups from
Okay.
both the mother and the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So to make sure that you don't get an infection, that you're healing properly, for the baby that they gain weight, that they stay on
Mm-hmm.
temperature. Uh, and besides that, it's the interaction between a parent and the child. So you probably heard of the 3 R's. It's
Actually,
it's
no.
very it's okay. It's very old fashioned. Maybe it's also typically Dutch. I'm not sure, but it's in Dutch. It's rust, reinheid, regelmaat.
Okay.
And it translates to rest, cleansing, and regularity. So you
Okay.
don't get the typical 3 R's when you translate it, but it has to do that you need to know how to find your rest, how to make sure that you have a safe environment for you and for your baby, and also not really a schedule, but some type of form that you can work with together as a family. And the maternity nurse is there to guide you through that process. And well, in our company, we translated it to 3 C's. And we say what we do is we counsel, we do
Okay.
checkups, and we coach.
Okay.
So we provide you with lots of information. That's the counseling. But the parents have to do their own soul searching in what fits right for us. Do you want a more natural? Do you want a more practical? Do you want to just try everything? Maybe you don't know. And maybe there's also something cultural that you have to take in consideration. Maybe that's not the same for both parents. So you have 2 different cultures and you have to figure out together what you can do. And you have to find out what your options are. And the maternity nurse can help you figure out those options and suit what helps for your family, what works for your family, and that you feel most comfortable with. Because there isn't one rule book or one way to raise a child or to become a parent. Everybody has their own path. And with us doing the checkups, we make sure that there are medically no
Problems.
problems.
Yeah.
Even though problems can always occur because the body is a natural thing and we can do all our best and put in most effort, but sometimes it just doesn't work the way we want to. And that's when we can either call the midwife, call the
Okay.
pediatrician, call a lactation consultant, and make sure that you get guided through the proper professionals that you need for a certain problem if it occurs, to make sure that you can get along on your way. And the coaching is just backing you up. I
Okay.
mean, they sometimes say it takes a village to raise a child,
Absolutely.
but I think it takes a village to support a mom or dad. And then the raising of the child will happen naturally. So by focusing more on the parents and maybe a little bit less on the child will grow up to be fine. And well, a baby needs food and love. And that's basically it. And either way you give it, the baby's going to grow up. So you also don't have to make it very hard for yourself. Just give yourself time to get used to your new role. And well, the maternity nurse is there for like 8 to 10 days maximum. And then you're going to do it by yourself. But that doesn't mean that you're alone. So
But that's all very true.
yeah.
Yep.
And the nurse is just there to give you a good start, like a flying start, and not only with tips and advice, but also to help you get to know yourself and your partner in how you feel about parenting and also how you talk about parenting together and how you work through discussions and how you work through things that maybe you're not on the same page with. So you take all the advice and take all the tips, but make it your own. And don't be a copycat, but use it to become the best version of a parent in your own way.
That's very well said. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I totally agree with that. Absolutely. You mentioned that so the maternity nurses were offering all tips and advice, but also hands-on support, right, in
Yeah.
terms of keeping the house clean for the mothers and the baby. But is there any other type of hands-on support that parents can expect when hiring a maternity nurse? Because I'm asking this question because we've heard so many different stories, and for I'm going to take my example.
Yeah.
My kraamzorg, she used to clean and iron my sheets, which was
Mhm.
amazing. Like, but I know that not every kraamzorg does that. she did that, but she did not cook. And I hear others cook and others do things, fold laundry, whatever. So what is, how does it work basically? Is it on a case by case basis or?
Well, I think all maternity nurses are different. So everybody brings their own style and their own specialty into your house. I think, but what also a thing is that if you look at maternity care 20 years ago and now, it's changed a lot, but also parents changed a lot. I mean, 20
Yes.
years ago, a father got 2 days of leave, and then he had to go back to work. So then it was normal if a woman was on her own that there would be more help around in the house. Nowadays, we also have something like feminism, or maybe we should say equality, where it's way more normal that all the things you do as a family, like care, cleaning, support, is divided equally. So it's not really necessary for a maternity nurse to take over one role
Yes.
in a leave. Mostly, and I think there are also viewers from all over the Netherlands, right? Maybe some
Yes.
even from abroad. So I'm situated in Amsterdam. So the situation in Amsterdam can be quite different from other places in the Netherlands. So sometimes I have to switch a little bit about what I'm used to and what I know is going on in other places of the country. But normally a maternity nurse is around for like 5 or 6 hours a day.
Okay.
And she won't only be on your bedside doing your checkups and helping you breastfeed, because you also have to sleep, you have to get in the shower, you want to cuddle a little bit, maybe you're having some friends or family over. So in the meantime, she can do something
I
else.
see.
And depending on how the situation is, how you're living, because she has time to do other things. And that can vary from putting some washing in the machine, prepping a meal, or maybe taking another child to go out to the playground to just lose some of the energy. But if you're very small housed, like a one bedroom apartment, and you want to sleep, then it's probably not convenient for the nurse to start vacuuming,
Of course.
because then you won't sleep. Because no, but if you're in a family home with 2 or 3 stages, then it's inconvenient, inconvenient, and then it can be comfortable. So that's always like not a discussion, but a talk that you have with your maternity nurse. Like, what can we expect? What can we do? But we always say that, like, housework is I like third, fourth, fifth
Oh,
on the list. Uh,
okay.
because that's always last. And it's mostly also a difference in how busy the period is, because sometimes when the maternity nurses there are a lot of babies, like for instance in the summer times, then the maternity nurses sometimes have to double. So they do 2 families at the same day,
Okay.
and then
Wow.
they can't go about doing 2 families, all the house cleaning and everything. So then they have to see what they can do in which family and what's convenient. And also keep in mind that, like all the housework and things, you're having a one-on-one medical trained professional in your house. So it's also, yeah, how necessary is it to have her do ironing, for instance, even though it's very comfortable. I don't like ironing myself as well. So I would love for someone to come ironing, but should it be a medical professional?
Yeah. I think it's really nice. Thank you very much for explaining all of this. I think it's really nice that you really clarified that maternity nurse is a medical service, and I think that's what everyone tends to forget,
Yeah.
that they're here first to take care of you and the baby, make sure that you're in good health, not necessarily all the other stuff. So I think it's nice to know that, so that expectations are right, and that people don't expect the wrong things and set themselves up for a disappointment. because that can be the case. And you actually mentioned that sometimes Kraamzorg, like maternity nurses, have kind of double
Yeah.
shifts. And that's actually my next question. How is it currently? Is it easy to find a Kraamzorg? Is it very busy? When is the good time to start arranging for Kraamzorg?
Well, we always say the sooner the better. So between 10 to 12 weeks, if you
Okay.
had your first midwife appointment and you had your first checkup, you heard the heart of your baby, she says you have a go for now, everything is okay, then just start figuring out what you want. Ask your midwife, who do you work with? Who are the professionals you feel comfortable with, you have, you trust to provide good care? Maybe also ask some of your friends or your neighbors if they had any good experience with a maternity nurse, and register then. Well, have a look at their websites. Maybe even give them a phone call just to see. A lot of the website tells something about how the agency or the maternity nurse works, what they find important, if they are known in your region, because if you're a nurse in Amsterdam, there's things work differently than when you're working in Groningen, for instance, or Brabant. So that could vary as well. And then make a choice for one person or one agency, because in the contrary to daycare,
Yes, that's what I
where
wanted
it's
to
quite
say.
normal to register with like every company, just to pray that you have a spot once your baby is born. That's not the case with maternity care. If you found a maternity care that you feel comfortable with and you register, then you're set. Because once they have accepted your registration, then you're for sure that you're receiving maternity care. So you don't have to worry then that maybe you won't have enough care or maybe you won't get any care. So
I see.
that's
So
probably a good thing.
yeah, so maybe it's nice to clarify that there are two ways to hire maternity
Yeah,
nurse, either through an agency like yours,
yeah.
or to hire like a freelancing
Hmm.
or an
Yeah,
independent maternity
yeah,
nurse. What you mentioned is that when you, I think it's interesting to know how the agencies work.
yeah.
Basically, just you sign up,
Hmm.
and then once your application has been approved, you will for sure 100% get someone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Then you for sure will get somebody. And what happens then is basically it depending on the agency that you're registering. A lot of agencies will provide you with information through like email or maybe via an app to help you guide you through the pregnancy. Not like the midwife does, but more like maternity care wise, because where the midwife focuses more on the pregnancy and giving birth, the maternity care focuses more on birth and beyond. So, like the first week, think about things, how you want things to work out, what do you want to discuss, how is your partner involved, how is your family involved, what if you don't want them to be involved? That's also a situation that's possible. How do you cope with that in the maternity week? So we give you some things to think about and to let your mind go over it. And then you have the intake interview.
Okay.
And that usually takes place between the 32nd and the 34th week of your pregnancy. Some agencies do it a little bit early, but always a minimum of a month before your due date. And that also has to do with then you'll have the most clear vision of how you're feeling, what you want, what you're expecting from birth, if there are going to be any complications. Um,
Where does
so
the
that's
intake take place? At your home or at the agency?
normally at your home.
Okay.
At least if you're having a first child, then it's always going to be at your
Okay.
home, unless you really don't want to. But for maternity nurses, it's also important to see the home situation, to know where their well, if you're with an agency where their people are going to. Because I'm working at an office, I know where I'm going to. I know it's a safe place. But if I have to send my nurses out, I also want to know it's a safe place,
Yep.
and that it's clean, and that also people can provide for their child. And sometimes we come in. Well, if you take Amsterdam for example, it's very diverse. So we come to people who live in a city center, in a very big house, 5 floors, and with an au pair, with a help, with a nanny, everything there. But we also see people who live in an attic, a one room apartment with just a mattress on the floor, and then maybe we can help them out because they don't have a bed, they don't have any clothes for the baby, they don't have a bath to put the baby in. And by seeing that with our own eyes, we can also get some insight in what we can do for those parents to make sure that this baby also comes into a safe haven and will have a good start. And at the midwife, you always visit the midwife at her practice. So we are basically the only medical staff that comes behind your back door. And that's, that can be a little bit terrifying. Well, terrifying maybe sounds a bit too negative, but can be a bit anxious to have someone in your house. But those trained nurses are trained nurses. So they're like chameleons, and they will make sure that they will fit in your house and they will adjust. And but they can also make a scan of what could be of help and also talk to you about, would you like that type of help? Because of course we will never force you to do anything that you won't like.
I see. It's actually my next question. That's a bit related to what you just said. What if you have a maternity nurse, but you don't feel very comfortable with that maternity nurse? Does this happen? And what are the options? Can you change? And my other question, actually, before that, is that when you work with an agency, do you meet the maternity nurse prior to the kraamweek, or you?
I think I'll probably do the first, your last question
So I
first.
thought.
Yeah, because meeting the maternity nurse is always a hot topic, and it's also one of the most asked questions that we get. But since a birth can be 3 weeks before your due date, but also 2 weeks after your due date, it's going to be very difficult to make sure that you have one nurse set for you to meet and also to provide care, because then we would really need thousands and thousands of nurses if we're going to do it like that. So that's why the intake interview is so important, because then someone comes to your house and talk to you about how do you want it to look? What's your personality? Are you someone who's very extrovert, very outgoing? Do you need a little bit more someone pulling you or giving you a push, or reading you a little bit more? Are you more calm, or are you more excited? And they know all the nurses, so they can then go back to the office and think, well, maybe she would be a good match, he will be a good match. And there are different types of nurses, so there's one for everybody. But then still, going on into your next question, it's still a people's job. And we have to do with emotions and hormones, and emotion and hormones twice if there are 2 parents. So even though you think you made a very good match, there's always a possibility that it doesn't work out the way you thought it would. And well, we often advise parents to talk about it with their nurse, because sometimes it's just in the detailing, or in being open about expectations, or just tiny things that can make it a lot better. And then we don't need to switch between nurses. If that's not possible, or if people feel very uncomfortable doing that, then we just try and talk with the parents like, okay, but what's going wrong? So is it expectations? Is it personality? Is it just a match? And with that information, we think, okay, we thought she was a good idea. Maybe we can try with this person, and that will probably fit better into this family. And then we just switch. And it's basically not possible to do it on the same day.
Yes.
But then for the next day, or maybe a day after, then there's always room to switch nurses. Sometimes people want to switch nurses 3 or 4 times. And
Oh,
then we
wow.
also have a little bit of a discussion like, okay, but is it the nurses or is it maybe not the nurses?
I see. I
Yeah.
understand. I understand. I can imagine there are more extreme situations, but it's good to know that if it's really a very bad match, that you can always try and change. And actually, you were saying it's not possible to change on the first day, and I think it's interesting to look into that actually in the timeline of Kraamzorg. So basically, can you please tell us more about when it starts actually, when the Kraamzorg starts, when do the nurses step in,
Mhm.
and yes,
Yeah,
for how
well,
long they stay?
I'll I'll tell you more about that, but just to clarify, I didn't mean it's not possible to do it on the first day, but not on the
On the
same
same
day. So if you're
day. Okay.
saying
Yes,
in
yes,
the
yes.
morning, I don't like her,
I
we
see.
can switch a nurse and send someone else in the
Mm-hmm.
afternoon, then you would switch, the switch would be the next day.
Yep.
So it's not in the same 24 hours that we can make those arrangements. Well, like I said earlier, maternity care is like 8 days. And because it's covered by health insurance, they sort of uh, uh, well, they determine the rules. So they say the date of birth is day one.
Okay.
So if you give birth on a Monday, just make it easy, start a week off properly. You give birth on a Monday, doesn't matter what time, then Monday is going to be your first day. So if it's going to be 3 o'clock at night, that's comfortable because then you have the entire Monday ahead of you. If it's 11 at night, yeah, tough break for you, but then that's also the first day. So, and then if you have 8 days, so it's from Monday until Monday, that's your maternity week. All days you are spending in the hospital, you're also receiving care, either from a
Yes,
maternity nurse or from a regular nurse,
I get it.
but you receive care.
I
So
see.
they say that's also part of your maternity week. So if you are giving birth at Monday in the hospital because of a C-section, for instance, you come home Wednesday morning, then you have maternity care at your house from Wednesday till Monday. And then if the maternity nurse thinks, well, things aren't going properly, you're not fully ready to take care of everything by yourself, she can discuss with you and with the midwife to maybe extend the maternity care with 2 extra days. So,
I
and
see.
then you would have until Wednesday. And especially well, babies or women who have been in the hospital for a long period of time, they can benefit with some extra care. And normally we don't see that they have like 5-6 hours a day, but they just have the short care for like 3 hours a day because they're if you come home after a week, you mostly are quite back on your feet concerning yourself. And you've already probably given a bath to your baby in the hospital. So you've already done a lot of things. But the transition from the hospital to your house and how everything works in your house and how you're doing with maybe going up and down the stairs or going outside or how to cope with visitors staying too long. Those are the things and the fine tuning that the maternity nurse can do with
Yeah.
you once you came back home.
It's really interesting to know that. I didn't know that day
Okay.
one was the date of birth. Actually didn't know. It's interesting, I think, for parents because we have a lot of international parents following Parentally, and also a lot of parents who also get, family staying over right after birth. So always wondering, like, could I postpone Kraamzorg because my mother is here? But it's not. I think now we've made it clear that it's not the purpose. It's really a medical
Yeah.
service to check on you right after birth. So that I think it's really clear, and thank you for clarifying that. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. And we've also received some questions. Thank you so much for all of this. We also received some questions. One was that what happens if I cannot find Kraamzorg?
Yeah, if you cannot find kraamzorg, well, it's almost never happens that you cannot find kraamzorg. So maybe that's a good thing to start with. But also what can help in finding kraamzorg is for every pregnant woman around there and out there, register with one person, register with one agency. Because for example, if I have all the registrations, at a certain point, I've reached my capacity of the amount of women I can provide care. So if someone then calls me, I have to say, well, I'm sorry, I don't have any more capacity. Try somebody else. And then maybe 2 months later, people are calling and saying, well, I registered with different companies, so now I want to cancel my registration. And then all of a sudden, I have place. So also in being supportive of each other and not making it harder than it sometimes is, don't keep space for someone else. And usually all the maternity care offices are obliged to provide care, even if it's a low amount of hours. And that's also something that sometimes isn't that's one of the difficulties with self-employed nurses and agencies. Because spreading care and giving it to the people is one of the main issues with maternity care, because it's now very common to look at who came first. So who comes first gets it all, and if you're late, you don't have anything. And that's it touches our own situation, because you think, well, I was on time, I managed for myself properly, and well, if someone's late, then that's their problem. But it's a medical service. It's not a luxury service. So instead of looking into what we feel we're obligated to have, or what we have the right to have, is what do we need to have. So it's also looking from a different angle to maternity care. And that can also help choosing with a maternity care. Are you looking into spreading the amount of care? So will you make sure my neighbor also be able to have care? Or are you going to give everything to me and nothing to my neighbor? And that's a difficult discussion. But if you look at the entire workforce that we have now, there are just not enough nurses to give everybody everything they want. So we have to be, social and empathic. Is that the right word?
I think it's empathetic, but I'm not even sure.
to what we provide and how we share the care that we need. And what's very common in maternity care is that if the first couple of days you had a lot of care and a lot of hours and you're doing okay, then you go down a little bit in hours to provide some more hours to someone else. And instead of feeling that you're not getting what you are entitled to, you have to look at it like, okay, but I'm fine. I'm fine. And I can do with this amount of care. I mean, if you don't have to go to the physical therapist, I mean, most people have like 9 appointments they can have every year. But if you're done after 3, then why not be happy with that? You're settled. You had what you needed. So that's something that's a discussion going on in the entire country. So
it's a tricky subject.
But not having not being able to find maternity care, if you can't find it yourself, you should always go back to your health insurance, because they are the ones who are responsible to making sure that you get medical care.
So they can help.
Yeah, they can help. Yeah, because they are the people who are making contracts with agencies, but also with individual nurses. So they have the responsibility for their clients to make sure that there's care available. So if you can't find it yourself, always go back to your health insurance.
Oh, that is very good to know. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. But yeah, that's very good to know. I have a question, but it's more out of curiosity because you were also talking about advocating for Kraamzorg to remain available for future generations.
Yeah.
Are you implying that it's endangered? Could it disappear?
There's always a possibility,
Yeah.
of course, because I think the government is always looking at how we can reduce costs and what is efficient and what not. And I think it's also normal to look into it. I mean, I think if we see that some grandparents are now getting washed once a week
Oh
because
my
there's
God.
not enough support or not enough money. And then we're talking about ironing shirts and
Yeah.
cooking meals. I'm
Yep.
thinking, yeah, I rather have my nanny given a bath twice a week, and maybe some less ironing for newborn parents, if that's the discussion we're talking about. So, but yeah, we have to keep in mind, like, what is maternity care really set out to do? And if we can get that more in balance, then like health insurance and government will also see like it's necessary to keep it going. And what are the specific values on preventing and also, you know, like families and new children, they are the future. So if we don't take care of them properly, then what's our future going to look like? But I think we also have something self to do, because sometimes people say, well, I don't have a network, I'm on my own. And not only people who are not from the Netherlands, because in the Netherlands you see a lot of lonely people as well. But I think, you know, you're having a baby for like 6 months in advance. You know, go out there, do the work, try and make a network. There are lots of mama communities like yours, with support groups, with chat groups, either online, but there are also a lot of cafes who have mama meetups. There's so much out there to support newborn parents and to make a network of your own. But we have to do the work ourselves. And if you have a little bit more support, you'll probably see that we can do with a little bit less of the medical help, but just have the medical help for what it's intended to. And the rest we can figure out ourselves.
Preach. I agree with you
Yeah.
totally. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And actually, it answers my last question, like what it was going to be. What is your advice for parents? But I don't know if you could say something better than this. It was actually already a very good answer.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing. All these tips, advice, and thoughts with us. We're reaching the end of this live. I wanted to ask you a bit more about the Kleine Amsterdammer. Tell us a little bit more
Yes.
about your agency, where you are located, which regions you serve. I would love that.
Yeah, well, the name kind of gives it away. The
Mm-hmm.
Kleine Amsterdammer is like, it's a little bit of a word joke as well, you know, because we always say babies are like tiny humans. So the Kleine Amsterdammer is like the tiny Amsterdam. So we are working in Amsterdam and we provide our care in Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Amsterdam is growing bigger and bigger. So it's really quite some size. And our nurses are, well, some are from living in Amsterdam and some living
Mm-hmm.
in areas around because, well, the city is very difficult to get into and pricey to live in. So it's not set for everybody. And we've been around now for 14 years,
Mm-hmm.
almost 14. And it's really a company built by people from the maternity care. So
Okay.
nurses, team coaches, lactation consultants who thought we don't want to be in a very big national company, but we want to be small, with contacts with the midwives, being able to work in a specific region, not driving for an hour to get from one family to another family, and also the diversity. We think it's very important that everybody gets care, and not only the happy few or the ones with the big mouths, but also the parents who are in support groups. You know, the teenage
Yes.
mothers, or the women who are suffering from a domestic abuse and are in a safe house. Also refugees who are coming here from different countries and are staying either in their own home or in a support center. So everybody who lives in Amsterdam has a right to good care. And we also try with our nurses to have a variety of nurses around. So we have French, we have Moroccan, Iranian, Polish, from Ukraine, all
That's
different countries,
amazing.
all different religion, different languages. So, you know, like the city, so are we. And that also helps matching, but also be sensitive of a variety of expectations and values and cultures and how to go about. And also in Amsterdam, you see a lot of variety in how families are working. So we have the single moms, we have the double moms, we have the mom and dad, we have the dad and dad, we have mothers who carry a child for another mother. And yeah, we can provide care for everybody. So that also keeps it very interesting.
That's really good. That's really, really good. And for anyone who is interested in learning more about the Kleine Amsterdammer, they are available on Parentally. And to answer one of the questions just a second ago, yes, this live is recorded, so I will share it later on the feed with all the contact details of Laura and the Kleine Amsterdammer. There was also a question about, are you serving the Amstelveen area?
No, I'm sorry. No, but we do have good contacts.
Okay.
So if you want some information on a good agency or a good nurse, just give us a call and then we can help you further
Great.
along. And what's maybe also good to know is that next to the maternity care, we also have lactation consultants, and they're from the Breastfeeding Center Amsterdam, and we provide lactation care within our package of maternity care. But you can always contact them if you're not registered with us or not receiving maternity care. So either you can contact them for a visit at your house in Amsterdam, but we can also do, well, not live on Instagram, but we can also do like a video consult. Sometimes we even have parents calling in from abroad, like from America or from England, because they want some guiding. And well, with all the options we have nowadays for communication, there doesn't have to be boundaries. So you can contact us from anywhere around the globe.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Laura. We need to wrap up, unfortunately. I've seen some comments. Please, for the ones who have written some comments and have some questions, please send us a direct message and we will answer. But I could go on for another hour, honestly, because it's so interesting. The more you talk, the more I have questions popping in my mind. So maybe we can do another session. But thank you so much for doing this. I think it was really helpful. We got a lot of great comments. So I'm really grateful for your time. And thank you everyone also for watching this. I hope it was helpful for you. It is recorded. It will be shared on the feed of our accounts in coming days. So please follow us if you don't already, and please follow the Kleine Amsterdammer. And I wish everyone a beautiful day, beautiful week ahead. And Laura, thank you so much again.
You too for having me, and hopefully see you next time.
With pleasure.
Yes.
Bye everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.